Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Utility Sports. And in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the 2022 NBA draft with my second rendition of an NBA mock draft here now on the channel for this 2022 NBA draft season. A lot has shifted since last time I did this. There's some new guys in the lottery, and we're doing a full first round this time, not just the lottery. So there's a lot to be excited for. Make sure to leave a like on today's video if you do enjoy these types of videos. Also, let me know in the comments section what you think about the layout, what you think about the players, where I have them going. Of course, there's a lot that can change yet up to this point. Nothing is final. These are just my current thoughts with where they're going to go. And remember, this is not a big board either. This is not the way I would rank these players. I do have a big board up on the channel. Make sure to go check that out after this video. I'll try and put a card near the end of the video for that as well. Leave a like, subscribe. It would really help us here at Utility Sports. And without further ado, let's get into the video here. In the current draft order, I did not simulate the lottery. I wanted to emphasize which teams are struggling right now. So it is in order of NBA standings currently as of 1/19. So January 19th is the day I'm recording this. It's based off of the current order of record. So without further ado, that brings us to the Orlando Magic first overall. This team is struggling. Jalen Suggs has missed quite a bit of time this year. Hasn't been super great when he's been playing. But Franz Wagner is looking like a very pleasant surprise for them. Their other top 10 pick. He's been playing great basketball this year. And for Orlando, they've actually got a lot of nice young pieces. Now, I don't think that they have the guy, and that's going to be the problem that this team has right now. But when you consider what's on their roster, Cole Anthony, who's been playing well this year. You also have Markelle Fultz coming back from a serious injury. You also have some other key players in that grouping as well. Look at Mo Bamba, had a great game the other day. You also look at guys like Wendell Carter. You got Jonathan Isaac coming back from an injury. Chuma Okeke, who not a lot of NBA fans know. This team does have some talent. They just don't have the guy, and I think they're badly in need of that. So that's why here, first overall, I have them going with Jabari Smith, who has been the guy for Auburn this season. He's been phenomenal for them as a true freshman, stands at 6'10", has a phenomenal face-up game, and can be the sole creator for an offense. If you need a guy to go get you baskets, this is the guy you want doing it from this year's class. I really, really do believe that now. Paolo Banchero was the guy for me early on in the process, but Jabari Smith's play as of late has just been better. He's been more consistent as a three-point shooter, and he's really going to be tough to get off of his spots. He's lengthy. Kind of looks like Kevin Durant a lot. I'm not going to throw that out as a comparison because Kevin Durant is so great as an all-time player. But Jabari Smith, you watch him, it's hard to not get excited with some of those Kevin Durant-like characteristics. Defensively, he's also really, really good on the perimeter, uses his size and length well, moves his feet pretty quickly. And I think he's going to be a great player at the NBA level. This is a really, really strong draft class, and I think Jabari Smith right now should be looked at as the first overall pick. It's tough, though. It's going to come down to fit. It's going to come down to need. A team might opt for a guy like Jaden Ivey, Paolo Banchero, Chet Holmgren, if that's what they really fall in love with, if they get enamored with that guy as a prospect. So I think this mock draft season is going to be one of the hardest, honestly. That's why you guys have to stick here, because I put so much time and effort into watching these players, catching every college game that I can, and then also breaking down, studying film on it so I know what these players' strengths, weaknesses are. Jabari Smith struggles a little bit when it comes to playing through physicality, but when you look at what Orlando has, you've got a lot of tough players already. You've got a lot of tough-minded guys. Jalen Suggs is a very tough-minded guy. Franz Wagner as well. I think they just need more talent, more skill, and that's what Jabari Smith brings out of Auburn. Very, very skilled player. Love his game. He's going to be great in the mid-range area, going to be great from three. I think if he gets a little bit stronger, can finish at the rim a little bit more easily, he becomes a polarizing three-level scorer at the NBA level, someone who I could see averaging 25 points a game very rapidly into his NBA career. Pick 2, we got the Detroit Pistons. They were pick 1 in our last mock draft. They've won a couple games. Now they fall down to pick 2 in this mock draft. Of course, there's a very good chance still that they could land at pick 1 in the lottery. And this team, there's a lot of rumors circulating around Jeremy Grant. Will they trade him? Will they not? For me, I'm operating under the notion that Jeremy Grant might be back and that he might not. To me, it doesn't really matter. At this point in the draft, you have to go best player available if you're Troy Weaver. And this is going to show how much regret he has drafting Killian Hayes, because here he's going to go with Jaden Ivey, guard out of Purdue. And I know a lot of people are going to say, whoa, they got Cade Cunningham. Why would they take Jaden Ivey? Could you imagine that backcourt? And let's not act like Cade Cunningham hasn't played around other good guards in his career. Look at his time in Oklahoma State. He was playing next to Isaac Likely, who isn't as good of a player as Jaden Ivey, but at the college level was a really good running mate for Cade Cunningham. And those two found a lot of success bouncing off of each other. I think Jaden Ivey brings that and more. He's extremely athletic. He's a blur in transition. I've got some concerns about him defensively if he's going to be able to lock in. But this guy's comp is Ja Morant. That's the type of upside I could potentially see here with Jaden Ivey. He's someone who he has all the charisma in the world. He's going to be willing to take the last shot if you need him to, but he's also someone who's going to be willing to pass the ball for the last shot. He and Cade Cunningham together is the perfect blend of speed, transition play, also skill shot creation, getting downhill. This backcourt would become a nightmare for other teams. I know Paolo Banchero would be a pretty good fit here as well in Detroit, but for me, Jaden Ivey, I just think he's the second best player in the class, arguably the best player in the class. And sophomore guards who take a massive step forward from their freshman to sophomore season usually translate pretty well to the NBA. Ja Morant was very similar in that. Freshman year at Murray State, not a lot of notice for him when it comes to the NBA draft. And then going into his sophomore year, had massive strides forward, became the second overall pick. And here I see some of the similar trajectory for Jaden Ivey. This kid is going to be really good. He's shooting the ball well from three as well right now, over 40% from three on the season, which is a massive upgrade for him from last year. And I think he's going to be a great fit wherever he goes just because he's a good player and knows how to play the game. He's willing to move the ball. He's willing to hit shooters out on the outside. I think Saddiq Bey would be one of the easiest winners from this. You get someone who can get downhill and create shots for you. Saddiq Bey's value goes way up because of this draft selection. Moving into pick 3, you got the Houston Rockets here. And the Rockets are interesting, of course. They've got a ton of guards right now that they would like to see continue going into the future. When you look at KPJ, you've also got Jalen Green. They drafted Joshua Christopher as well, Jacob out there in Houston. You've got Jayshawn Tate still there, who's a solid 3, maybe a little bit of a 2 when you consider how tall he is. He's a little undersized to play the 3, but he's been playing it, and he's been playing it fairly well. So for me, Houston's got to look into the front court a little bit, and there's 2 options. There's Paolo Banchero, Chet Holmgren. I think those are the guys who are likely to go 3rd and 4th overall. For me, Houston here, I'm opting for Paolo Banchero. I think they need another half-court scorer, someone who can work into the mid-range area and give them a hub of the offense type score. I think that's really what they're missing right now. KPJ, really, really good at knocking down step-back jump shots, and I think he's extremely explosive getting to the rim, but they don't really have a mid-range killer currently. Of course, there's hopes that Jalen Green can become that, but Paolo Banchero, very, very smooth operator into the mid-range area. He's a skilled scorer of the basketball. And similar to Jabari Smith, I see him as a guy who could probably average 20 to 25 points a game early in his NBA career. He's not the quickest guy, so that's the one hold up on him compared to Jabari Smith, who's a little bit quicker. He's not quick with the ball. He's going to struggle to get by really good defenders. He's not going to blow by a ton of guys, but his skill set is good enough where he can lull you to sleep. And just like James Harden, who wasn't the quickest guy, he's struggled with his burst a little bit this year in Brooklyn. Paolo Banchero's just got the skill set that works around it. Strong body, 6'10", 250 pounds. He's NBA ready. He's going to come in. He's going to make Houston a ton better. Houston's going to be much improved with this selection. Paolo Banchero, a great pickup for the Houston Rockets, 3rd overall. I know Duke's having a little bit of issues. Paolo Banchero, I've got some concerns about the data that he loses 7 pounds a game. That's concerning for me. I think medicals might flag him a little bit, so perhaps he falls a little bit further. But as of right now, without any new news on that, he's still a top 4 pick, and the Rockets grab him 3rd overall. Moving into pick 4, Oklahoma City Thunder here, and this may be the dream situation for Sam Presti. He gets the 4th overall pick, which, probably is the least desirable of the 4. Obviously, you want to be picking earlier, but you get the 4th overall pick in a year where there's 4 phenomenal potential build-around players, and the one that fell to him is the one that he needs. That is Chet Holmgren out of Gonzaga. They need some more size there, and they need some 3-point shooting, and they need someone who can handle the rock a little bit, and they need someone who can defend. And Chet Holmgren does all of those things. I know a lot of people right now are really critical of him, saying, oh, well, he's too light to play in the NBA. Oh, this, oh, that. I agree. I think he is too light to play center in the NBA, but right now he could step in and be a really good power forward on day one. Think about guys like Kelly Olynyk, who have found really good success in the NBA as a 4-man, and now make them a lot better at everything. And you get Chet Holmgren, you make him taller, you make him quicker, you make him longer, you make him more athletic, you make him be able to handle the ball, you make him a better 3-point shooter. That's what Chet Holmgren is. He's all of those things. He's not going to be someone who averages 25 points a game in his career. I think he's going to fall under some of the same notion of what happened to Lonzo Ball, where people all of a sudden thought he was going to be this mega superstar. Lonzo Ball never was going to be someone who averaged 25 points a game, and I think the same is true for Chet Holmgren, but what he does do is help you win games. In Oklahoma City, I'm sorry, the tank thing, it's fun. You're always looking for that number 1 overall pick. You want to start winning. You have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's one of the best players in the world, period. He's a great player. You've also got some other nice young talent around him, and I think Oklahoma City is ready to take a step forward as soon as they're willing to take a guy like Chet Holmgren who's going to help them do it. They shouldn't tank. I think that they should try and build a competitive team, get into close situations, and let their team develop that way. And I think Chet Holmgren comes into Oklahoma City, immediately improves the floor of this team, and also is a long-term ceiling raiser as well, because when he does put on a little bit of weight, maybe he can handle fives a little bit more frequently. And then you play him at that 5 position. You have really good spacing. You're able to play really fast. You got speed in transition. That's going to be a tough cover for other NBA teams. I know a lot of people are losing interest in Chet Holmgren. Don't. Trust me, please don't. He's a great prospect. Most years he would be the 1st overall pick. This year he's going 4th because of how good this class is. Don't panic on him. Don't jump off the ship. He's a great player. Moving into 5th overall, we've got the Indiana Pacers here. And Indiana's an interesting team for me. They have not had a top 9 pick, since 1989, I believe. And you look at their last time they had a top 10 pick, it was Paul George, 10th overall. So when they've been in the top 10, which has been one time in the last 24 years or so, they like to take someone who has high term upside. And for me, that's going to be Jaden Hardy here out of G League Ignite. He struggled a little bit this year for the G League Ignite team in terms of efficiency, but he's come on as of late. And I think he's someone who a lot of people looked at as a potential top 3 pick before the season started. A lot of people were viewing it as Banchero, Holmgren, and him. Jabari Smith's play, of course, Jaden Ivey's play, of course, have lifted them and vaulted them into that top 4. But Jaden Hardy, as of late, he's been playing better basketball. He's been a part of some winning games. And he's been really, really good for G League in the last 2 months. Started the year really cold, wasn't knocking down a lot of shots, takes some questionable shots as well along the way. But Indiana needs to take a stab on a guy who has star potential. And for me, that is Jaden Hardy here. There's other players in this class I do like more than him that I think are going to be better players, but I don't see them having the necessary superstar potential that Indiana is going to be needing and craving come this draft process. Next year, we got the New Orleans Pelicans, 6th overall. Here, this team has some really nice talent. I like what they have on this roster when you look at Zion Williamson. I like what they have with Trey Murphy. I really, really like some of their pickups. Jonas Valanciunas was a pretty solid pickup as well. When you look at what he can bring, I love Herb Jones. I was really high on him last draft process. But their backcourt's a mess. They don't have a ton of guys. I also love Brandon Ingram, by the way. They also have not a lot of shooting on this team. And for me, I'm going to try and address that with Ben Mathurin, forward out of Arizona. He is really good off the basketball. And for me, the dream idea here is you move into a starting lineup where you have a ton of size and length and maybe not a true center. This is going to sound a little crazy, but maybe a potential lineup of Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, Ben Mathurin, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones. Those 5 guys, you have a lot of interchangeable size and length and athleticism off the wing. You've got guys who can knock down the 3-point shot. You're going to have good spacing for Zion Williamson. I don't necessarily think that becomes their starting lineup very quickly, but I think that becomes a near-death lineup for them, similar to what we've seen the Golden State Warriors try and run, where you have some really good size, length, defensive capabilities. Ben Mathurin's a really good gap defender at this point. Maybe not a true stopper, but I am really high on this kid. I think he should be the 5th overall pick. I think there's a chance he can maybe even slip into the top 4. He's that good of a player to me, and he does a lot of that work off the ball. He is a player I am in love with. I love watching this kid play, does all the right stuff. There's a lot of scouts watching him every single night at Arizona. Just a couple weeks ago, he had 10 NBA scouts in the building. So this guy's going to be a lock to be a top 6, 7 pick for sure in my estimation, just with the way he plays. He averages a good amount of everything and does a lot on the floor, which is what you really look for. A guy that is going to be interchangeable along the wing. He's going to be competitive defensively. He's a very good athlete, and he can shoot the basketball. He checks all the boxes there. If he gets a little bit better creating off the dribble, he becomes a nightmare. And I think there is a good chance that he gets there. He's another player who, as a sophomore, has taken a massive step up from where he was as a freshman. And I think there is good long-term potential there with Ben Mathurin. Pick 7, we got the San Antonio Spurs here. They're an interesting team to talk about. Right now, Jakob Poeltl potentially on the trade block, and to me, with who's fallen to them, it becomes a no-brainer. Jalen Duren out of Memphis here, a very athletic center, someone who can jump out of the gym, can also cover a lot of ground defensively. He's good switching out onto the perimeter, and if they are going to trade Jakob Poeltl, they're going to need another guy who can come in and provide rim protection, and that is Jalen Duren. But I like his offensive fit next to DeJounte Murray so much more athletic. He can be a lob catcher, he can be a rim runner. And one thing that's really underrated about Jalen Duren's game is his playmaking capabilities. When he's going north-south downhill with the basketball in his hands, he can deliver passes from high post to low post. He can hit low post to corner. He can be a roll man and hit the corner on the move. The next read for him is going to be able to hit the wing guy when they rotate down into the corner, but I think he's very capable of getting there. He's showing some really, really nice flashes as a passer this year for Memphis, and I think he's going to be a great player in the NBA. The top 7 here has been really, really good. This class is incredibly good. I do not want people thinking this is a 4-player class. Now, I think there are 4 players that are just a step ahead of the others, but this class has a ton of potential all-stars. It's a really, really strong class, really good draft class. And if you guys want to keep up to date on it, you guys got to be subscribed here so you can keep up with all the information and news for the 2022 NBA draft. This is the best place to do it. I promise you that. Going into our next pick here, we got the Sacramento Kings. And Gianmartin McNair for them has a little bit of a draft tell. He likes drafting players who know how to play the game the right way. So there's some really good options out here, but I think there's one he would opt for over the others, and that's going to be forward Kendall Brown out of Baylor. We know he takes a look at Baylor. Last year drafted Davion Mitchell from there. And this Baylor Bear, he's a freshman from Minnesota, grew up in Cottage Grove, Minnesota, but he's a really, really tantalizing wing player. When you look at his size, he's about 6'8", offers really good length. I'm guessing about a 7'1" wingspan or so. And he's got some creation skills off the bounce. He's going to be able to attack hard closeouts. He's going to be able to shoot out of the corner. I think the swing skill for him is how his three-point shooting over the break translates when it's a little bit more distance. I need him to be a really good shooter for him to be a great player, but I think he can at least be a solid shooter early in his career and be a nice player for the Sacramento Kings. And the biggest thing that's going to sell Gianmartin McNair on him is his playmaking feel. He can get downhill. He can find shooters around him. He's selfless. Think about what he's drafted so far. Davion Mitchell, a hard worker, someone who's selfless, plays within the role of an offense. Look at Tyrese Halliburton, someone who can play off-ball guard, but can also have success being on ball. He's a good distributor. Him and Richaun Holmes, of course, that connection in the middle, little pick and roll dive cuts, and then you get Richaun Holmes on little floaters. Those two work together so well, and I could see Kendall Brown fitting right in there in Sacramento. It's no surprise that Monty McNair would offer someone who has playmaking capabilities. He's been linked to Ben Simmons. He likes wings who can handle the ball. He likes guys who can make the right and extra pass, and Kendall Brown can do that for you. Pick 9, the Portland Trailblazers, now on the clock here, and they're an interesting team as well, just given some of their issues this year. Of course, Damian Lillard shut down for a while. It's very possible this team ends up being a top 5 pick. And there's a few other things to monitor on this team as well. I think they're going to trade Yusuf Nurkic. I would not be surprised if Robert Covington gets traded as well. In fact, Covington's probably the more likely player to be traded. I'm not sure what the market's going to be for Nurkic at $12 million. It's hard to see a team necessarily for sure jumping in there, but I very well see it possible at the time I'm recording this. And then when you consider Anthony Simons, who's playing really good basketball right now, he's due for an extension this offseason, so we'll see how much they have to pay him to keep him in Portland. But this pick here, I'm going with forward AJ Griffin out of Duke. He's Nasir Little. He's what they want him to be, but he's better. Very strong wing player. He's got really good athleticism. Recently got moved into the starting lineup for Duke, put up 21 points against Wake Forest. And he's going to be someone who can be a consistent, solid contributor off the wing. Portland's been searching for this 3-and-D wing player that can be the key guy around them, around their star, Damian Lillard. As of right now, I'm getting the read that Portland does not want to trade Damian Lillard. They might look to trade CJ McCollum, try and retool this team a little bit, maybe trade CJ McCollum for an athletic big. Larry Nance could potentially get traded. This team's going to look a lot different. So they're going to try and take a guy who can help them early on, fill a role. AJ Griffin does that, and I think AJ Griffin's someone who's going to be a riser throughout this draft process. Was looked at as a potential top 5 overall pick before the year started out very slowly for Duke, struggled to adjust to the college game early, but has taken massive strides in the last couple of weeks, and someone who I think could very possibly end up being the 5th overall pick even. He's got that type of skill set, and I think his frame When you look at recent drafts, guys like DeAndre Hunter, Patrick Williams, very similar bodies, very similar skill sets. They go high in the NBA draft. A lot of teams really value those type of players. AJ Griffin's got that type of body. He's got that type of frame. He's got that type of skill set where he can be a 3 or a 4. There's a lot of value in that for the league. Gives you a lot of lineup flexibility in Portland here. AJ Griffin, a really good fit. Pick 10, the Atlanta Hawks, who've really struggled to get going this year. Trae Young in his last 30 games is averaging about 30 points a night, though. So he's been playing better basketball. But this team, after trading Cam Reddish, they have 2 first-round picks now this year. And they've got some work to do for this roster. And it's hard to see exactly where they need to go because they do have a lot of talent. They're just not winning games right now. For me, I'm going with guard Johnny Davis out of Wisconsin, someone who's all about winning games. He is a competitor at heart. And he's got a lot of skill sets that I think the Atlanta Hawks could use. He's really good at getting his shot off in the mid-range area. And he's someone who is continuing to take leaps forward. Again, would not be surprised if he ends up being the 6th or 7th overall pick this year, just given what his skill set is. He's going to be a top 10 pick. I think he's a lock for that now with some of his recent play. Between my last mock draft and this one, he's had massive games against Purdue, massive game against Houston, and some of the best teams in college basketball. And he's going to continue to rise, I think, throughout this process. If he continues to play the way that he has, I wouldn't be surprised if he walks away with the Wooden Award as well. He's been that good of a college player in his sophomore season. Another example of a sophomore player who took a massive step from his freshman campaign, shows a lot of potential, shows a lot of signs of growth, and teams really love that. In the top 10, if you can get a sophomore player who has shown improvement, that shows what potential can really be. Potential is not age. I really get annoyed, honestly, when I hear, oh, well, he's only 19 years old, he's got potential. There are certain guys who just don't have potential. Let's be honest about it. Potential is based off of skill sets. It's based off of certain characteristics and traits. Johnny Davis has a lot of those. He can shoot the 3 ball. He can work into the mid-range area. He's shown signs of being a good ball handler. He's shown signs of making the right pass when he's had to. Now, right now, a lot of people in college aren't able to guard him, so he hasn't had to pass the ball too much. But he's done that when he's had to. And I think Johnny Davis has a lot of skill set that's going to translate well. So maybe he's a little bit older, a year older than some of these other guys since he's a sophomore, but his potential is still higher than a lot of other players in this class, in my estimation. Pick 11, the New York Knicks here, another team that struggled to get off the ground early in the year. They found a little bit more success of late. Of course, they brought in Cam Reddish in that trade. They had 2 first-round picks this year, the other from Charlotte, traded that pick to Atlanta. So now it's just pick 11 here. And for them, they're going to be looking for a guard, someone who can really be the hub of the offense. And that's going to be Ty Washington out of Kentucky. We've seen them find success in the past drafting from Kentucky at that guard spot. When you consider what Emmanuel Quickley's been for them, he's been a real blessing as a 2 guard. And that's really where you get the critical thought process here of, can Quickley ever really be that true point guard? And I think the answer to that is no. I think that he's at best a combo guard. You probably want to have a playmaker next to him. And Ty Washington has taken massive steps game by game here this season for the Kentucky Wildcats. Most famous for breaking John Wall's assist record in a single game where he dished out 17 assists, a lot of those to his fellow big man, Oscar Tshiebwe. He's a nice player. He's also really capable of working into the mid-range area. I think he's everything that they were hoping Evan Fournier and Kemba Walker would be, honestly. I think that he solves a lot of their issues. He's going to be competitive on defense, and on offense, he's going to be someone you can put the ball in his hands and say, take us home, move the ball around, get us involved in the offense. He's going to be able to set it all up and more. He's someone who's going to continue rising up my board as well throughout this. His recent play has really pushed him up into the lottery, and I think he's almost a lock now at this point to be a lottery selection. Pick 12, the Oklahoma City Thunder here. This pick comes from the Los Angeles Clippers, who have been decimated by injuries. No Kawhi Leonard, no Paul George with a ligament tear in his elbow. It's been a tough year for the Clippers, and the Thunder are going to be reaping the benefits here. Another top pick in this year's draft, 2 in the lottery now. You see pick 4, they went with Chet Holmgren. Pick 12, they are going to go with Nikola Jovic, a forward out of Serbia. I like what they've done in their backcourt. Josh Giddey, they've got size at that position. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Trey Mann. They've got a really good young backcourt that I think could be really problematic for teams. Lou Dort as well. Of course, you can't go without mentioning him. This team needs a little bit more size, length, and speed, though. And you're getting that in this draft with Chet Holmgren, and then you come back with Nikola Jovic, a forward who has a lot of different skills that he can bring. Solid playmaker. He's also someone who's going to get to the rim off the catch. He's going to be able to rip through, take a guy baseline, finish around the rim. He's going to be able to do it off the wing as well. He's going to be a good off-ball player, which is what you need when you have guys like Josh Giddey and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Lou Dort's already shown massive improvement in that area. And then you get Chet Holmgren, who's going to play exclusively without the ball for the most part. You get Nikola Jovic here, who's comfortable doing that. But they also still have playmaking skills, and that's phenomenal. This Thunder team is going to be set up to move the basketball very, very well. They're going to keep each other involved in the offense. And they're going to be a win-by-team approach type of team, but they have the killers as well to match it. Josh Giddey is someone who is a gamer. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, like I said, one of the best players in the league, period. They've got talent. Now it's just about trying to bring it all together, getting the right fits. And to me, Chet Holmgren, Nikola Jovic, those are the two guys that really complement this roster the best. Pick 13, the Boston Celtics here, another team that's struggled this year. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, not having the success that they would like to have. I don't think either of those guys get traded at the deadline. If anything, I think it's most likely Marcus Smart potentially gets traded. We'll see, though. I wouldn't be surprised if Boston doesn't hit the panic button, doesn't trade anyone, and hopes to get into the playoffs with a better second half performance as well. And for me here, I'm going with forward Keegan Murray out of Iowa. I think that he's a solid four-man prospect. For me, I struggle a little bit when I'm evaluating a guy like Keegan Murray, who gets a lot of his work around the basket with the back to the basket approach, or gets a lot of offensive putbacks, because I don't see those transitioning well to the NBA. But what I do see is Keegan Murray working well off the basketball. He's got some skills as a three-point shooter that I think are going to translate well. He's going to play physically at the 4 position. I don't really see him playing too much 5. He's a decent athlete. He's lengthy. And I think he's someone who, you get him in the right development system. Another sophomore who's taken a massive step forward. He's leading the nation in scoring currently with over 23 points a night. Iowa Hawkeyes forward here comes into the NBA. He's going to be a nice contributor early on. I think he's everything that the Celtics were really hoping Grant Williams would be. He's a better shooter than Grant Williams. He's going to be able to handle the ball a little bit more than Grant Williams, and just does a little bit more of everything than Grant Williams. And I think that slight step up in every area is enough to make him a big time improvement. Pick 14, the Toronto Raptors here now on the board. Of course, they've got a lot of interesting players on this team when you consider what Scotty Barnes is. I also really like OG Anunoby. He's taken massive step forward in his NBA career year by year. Pascal Siakam still on the books as well. Fred VanVleet still there. Chris Boucher is someone I had liked a couple of years back. I had seen him as the most improved player of the year candidate last year. Showed it a little bit, didn't actually get the award, but had a really nice season himself. And now here I'm going with guard Max Christie out of Michigan State, because for me, Toronto needs a little bit more help scoring the basketball. And he's someone who can do it off the ball, which I think there's a lot of value to that, because I think ultimately Toronto is going to envision Scotty Barnes as a point forward for them. Someone who does a lot of the ball handling, does a lot of the decision making. Right now, he's got to get better with his dribbling, but Max Christie is going to be a great fit around Scotty Barnes because of his ability to curl off screens, to curl off cuts. And he's also someone who's going to be able to space, keeps his hands ready to shoot the basketball. He's good into the mid-range area as well. One-step pull-ups are butter for him, and I think that's going to be a really good fit into Toronto. He's also got decent length. He's going to be competitive defensively, and he's someone who I think has really, really high upside in this year's draft class. Moving outside of the lottery here now, we are on to pick 15 with the Memphis Grizzlies. This pick comes from the Los Angeles Lakers, who are an absolute struggle bus right now. I called it before the year started. I'll try and put a card right here for that, where I talk about how the Lakers are a terrible team. That was back in August when I called that. They're barely holding on to the AC now, and the Memphis Grizzlies are reaping the benefits. And at pick 15, they're going to be going here with guard Hugo Bassan from the New Zealand Breakers. And it's tough to draft for the Memphis Grizzlies. They've got 3 first-round picks this year and not a lot of holes on their roster. I like what their front court possesses. Steven Adams, Jaren Jackson Jr. They've also got Brandon Clark, who's had a resurgence this year. Forward spot, you're looking at a guy like Dylan Brooks, Kyle Anderson, who, maybe he's out this year, maybe forward is a place they're looking. Had they not drafted Zaire Williams last year in the top 10? Then you also consider what they have at guard. Desmond Bane's taken a massive step forward. A lot of people are going to be considering him for most improved player of the year this year. Then you also look at Dylan Brooks there. John Morant, of course, you can't go without mentioning him. This team is deep. They've got a lot of talent. But Hugo Bassan, I think, has really high upside. I'm higher on this kid than everyone else. I'm telling you right now, I would not be surprised if this kid is a lottery pick. A lot of people are seeing him right now as a second-round pick. When Hugo Bassan goes really early in the draft, in the top 15 or 16 picks for sure, remember this. This is why you have to subscribe here. Last year, I was way ahead on Josh Giddey. I was the first person to put him in the lottery throughout the whole draft process. You can go back to last year and look at my very, very early mocks. Way before anyone was talking about that kid, I said he was a first-round pick and probably a lock for the lottery when you considered his size and skill set. Hugo Bassan, a completely different player. He's going to be a scoring-oriented type of guy who can really shoot the basketball. Not as big as Josh Giddey, not as good of a ball handler, not as good as of a facilitator, but what he does is score the basketball, and he's going to get downhill. He's scoring a ton of points right now for the New Zealand Breakers, and part of why I feel like this guy is someone who a lot of teams are going to really value is because when you're playing in a men's league at the age of 20 years old and every other man on the floor is content with you having the basketball to end games, that shows how good of a player you are. That shows how much trust your teammates have in you. That shows how much they believe in your ability, your skill set. And I think GMs are going to look at that the same way. Hugo Bassan is a great scorer of the basketball, and he can also fit off the ball as well as a premier spot up guy. There's a lot of value here. For me, this is why it's a safe pick for Memphis. You get someone who's going to be able to at least shoot the basketball and has some nice shot creation skill sets that if you do try and make a consolidation trade, other teams will value him. Or if you want to keep him, you can maybe afford to lose a guy like Dillon Brooks, which would really hurt this Memphis Grizzlies team. Don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting that they do that, but it gives you some flexibility. It gives you someone who can shoot the ball, can handle it a little bit, and does a lot of things really, really well on the offensive end of the floor, especially when you have so much length and size in that front court if you're Memphis. Moving on to pick 16, the Minnesota Timberwolves. They've been a feel-good story this whole year, currently the 7th seed in the Western Conference. And they've been playing good basketball. It's really fun to watch this team play. The only thing that you have to really be concerned about is, what does Jared Vanderbilt look like if they make the playoffs? Is he a good enough power forward for them to win playoff games? He's been playing great in the regular season. I don't want this to become a Jared Vanderbilt bashing party because he's actually a very fun player to watch. And Wolves fans, you should love him. He's a great hustle guy that fits well into that team. But for me, this is an upgrade here. EJ Liddell out of Ohio State. He is a beast on the defensive end of the floor, averaging over 3 blocks a game. He's everything Minnesota needs. Now, I don't think EJ Liddell is actually going to go this high, but I think if you're Minnesota drafting 16th overall, this should be the selection. This is one of those instances where a player who's a junior probably is going to get underdrafted because, his potential's not there, even though he's taken massive steps forward, even from his sophomore to junior campaign. I think he has more potential than some of the freshmen in this class. Just because he's a junior doesn't mean his potential's gone. He is someone who, when he's been around places, he's been given time to learn. He's shown massive improvements, and athletically, he's even getting better as an athlete. He's gotten more bouncy from his sophomore to junior seasons, and that's a big reason why he's someone who I could see being worth a middle of the first round pick this year. He's solid on offense. I think he's a lot like Keegan Murray, but I think he's honestly better at a lot of the things that Minnesota would need on the defensive end of the floor, keeping the ball moving, that kind of stuff. I like EJ Liddell a lot for Minnesota. I think he would be a great pickup for this Wolves team. Pick 17, the Washington Wizards now on the board here. And of course, last year they tried bringing in Aaron Holiday to be the key guy off the bench for him. I just don't think that's really worked out the way they had hoped. So I'm going to go with guard Kennedy Chandler here out of Tennessee, someone who I see as a potential lottery talent. They get him 17th overall. He's going to be a feisty two-way guard, someone who maybe is a little undersized, but he's going to compete. He's going to push the other guard. He's going to be able to pick up 94 feet and make him work. He's going to get in the passing lanes. And he's also good at navigating traffic, handling the basketball, and making good decisions with it. And I think that's what Washington would like to have off the bench. You've got pretty solid wing talent there in Washington with Kyle Kuzma, Rui Hachimura, Corey Kispert, Denny Avdia. You just need a guard who can handle the ball, manipulate the defense, and also just deliver to shooters. And I think that's what Kennedy Chandler brings behind Spencer Dinwiddie. To me, he's an upgrade over Aaron Holiday. I could see them looking at a center, but at this point in the draft, I would prefer them going guard, and Kennedy Chandler is the one that makes the most sense, especially when you consider what they have at that wing position already. Pick 18, the Denver Nuggets here, a team that is built on the back of Nikola Jokic. Aaron Gordon, he's having a decent season as well, been playing really good basketball as of late, but Nikola Jokic deserves a lot of MVP credit for the way that this Nuggets team is playing, because without him, they would be very, very top into the lottery, honestly. So at 18th overall, I have him going with forward Patrick Baldwin Jr. And this is a little bit of an interesting selection here because he brings you a lot of the same stuff that Michael Porter Jr. does. And Patrick Baldwin Jr., he struggled a little bit for Milwaukee, struggled for USA in the U19 World Cup. They ultimately did win the gold medal, but he did not impress me at all throughout that World Cup. A guy like Nikola Jovic, who went earlier in this draft, had a much better World Cup than Patrick Baldwin did and was a lot more impressive. For me, Patrick Baldwin is someone who can fit as a floor spacer, who can offer length. Not the best defensive player, but he at least is big, and he's going to at least try on that end of the floor, I would have to assume. When he gets to the NBA, hasn't done a ton of it for Milwaukee, but I think he's someone who will once he gets to the NBA. And his real skill set is shooting the basketball. You put him on Denver, you space out the corners, he's going to be an instant bench guy that comes off the bench, replaces Michael Porter Jr. in games, and you're able to keep a similar level of shooting capabilities and size and length on the floor. Although you get a little less athletic, you get a little bit less skilled, it's not much of a huge drop off for me for the Denver Nuggets. And Patrick Baldwin Jr., a player I don't necessarily love in this draft, but I think his fit into Denver does make a lot of sense. Pick 19, the Atlanta Hawks here. This pick comes from the Charlotte Hornets via that trade with the New York Knicks for Cam Reddish. So we'll see what they can get here for Cam Reddish. And they're going to go with forward Julian Strawther out of Gonzaga. And I think this does actually make a lot of sense for them when you're considering that they hit the reset button. Strawther is someone who I can see playing the three, maybe a little bit of the four-man position in the NBA. Not as skilled as a guy like Cam Reddish, but I think he's a better fit onto this Atlanta Hawks team, specifically when you consider that Strawther does a lot of his work without the basketball right now for Gonzaga. Nembhard has the ball a lot for the Zags. You also consider that Chet Holmgren, Drew Timme, those are the focal points of Gonzaga's offense. Not Julian Strawther yet. He consistently finds his. He's going to be content coming off the bench. He's going to be content playing into his role. And this is exactly what Atlanta wanted to do. They wanted to move off a guy like Cam Reddish, who's going to be looking for a big extension, a bigger role. And they go and get a guy who's going to be on a nice, cheap rookie deal for a while. And he's going to play within his role and hopefully help this team just win more games. Their picks so far in this draft have been very beneficial to them actually trying to win more basketball games, and that's what they got to be focused on. Moving into pick 20, we got my Dallas Mavericks here. I am a big-time Dallas Mavericks fan for those who are new to the channel, so this pick does mean a lot to me. We don't have our pick next year either, so this pick does really have a lot of importance on what we can put around Kristaps Porzingis and Luka Doncic. And to me here, that's going to be guard/forward Ron Harper Jr. out of Rutgers. He's had a great season this year. He's got ice in his veins. He's hit a game winner against Purdue. He's also sunk some clutch free throws and some wins. And he's a great defensive player, just like his father was in the NBA. Of course, his father, Ron Harper, played for the Chicago Bulls. Ron Harper Jr., though, I think he's going to come into the NBA and he blends perfectly into what this Dallas Mavericks new identity is. This Dallas Mavericks team has become an elite defensive team, which I don't think anyone expected before the year. Jason Kidd deserves a lot of credit, not only for how the Los Angeles Lakers had defended when they were winning a championship with him as an assistant coach, but now with how the Dallas Mavericks defend. And Ron Harper Jr. is the epitome of what Dallas needs. They need someone who can actually be that true on-ball stopper, because right now there's a lot of great team defense going on in Dallas. Even without a great rim protector on the floor at all times for Dallas, they've been really good defensively. But they need someone who I can trust putting on the basketball, can play with strength. He's about 240 pounds at about 6'5", so he's a really strong player. Not the quickest guy, not the most skilled offensive player, but he can come in. He's a little bit like Dorian Finney-Smith, but I think an upgraded version defensively and a little bit further along in his development offensively at the time he's coming into the NBA. He's going to be someone who is going to be a very, very attractive 3-and-D player for a lot of teams throughout his NBA career. I see him having a nice 15-year NBA career. He's going to be a good player. It's a safe pick for Dallas, but this is the type of safe pick that they need to make. Pick 21, the Philadelphia 76ers now on the board. Joel Embiid's been playing great this year. And this team lacks a few key skill areas. They lack the ability to get to the rim off the dribble. From the perimeter, they lack athleticism. They lack speed. This is one of the slowest teams in the NBA. I can believe currently they have the 28th ranked pace in the NBA, so they're extremely slow with the way that they play. And ironically, the type of player that they're missing is Ben Simmons. They need some more size. They're terrible at rebounding. I believe they're ranked 30th in rebounding. They need size, they need speed, they need athleticism. And I can't give you all three of those things at pick 21 in the NBA draft. There's just not a guy here that's going to address all three of those things for Philadelphia, but there is one that addresses two of those things, and that is speed and athleticism. And to me, that's going to be J.D. Davison, guard out of Alabama. He's someone who I saw being a lottery pick this draft process. I've cooled off on him a little bit. I think he's going to have some struggles in the half court, but Philadelphia doesn't need him for the half court. They need him to get out in transition, push the ball, get downhill, and finish plays. They need more athleticism. They need more speed on this roster. And that's what J.D. Davison does. This is a really good fit when you consider that he answers some of the issues Philadelphia currently possesses. They need more size. They're not getting size in this pick. I definitely think that they need a bigger forward, someone who's like 6'8", 6'9", that can guard multiple fours in the NBA. Right now, they're really relying on Georges Niang for that. And it's a little bit of an issue for him, just considered his size and athleticism. You look at Furkan Korkmaz and also Seth Curry. They don't have a lot of size. They don't have a lot of defensive capabilities, and they don't have a ton of athleticism. They need some of that. And J.D. Davison brings some of those characteristics. Of course, he's going to be famous for his flush over Walker Kessler. And he's someone who I think, given some more time, I think could grow pretty well into the NBA. He just needs to work on his offensive game in the half court when he's not in the pick and roll. Doesn't have the greatest creation skills, and I think he needs to develop in those areas. Pick 22, the Milwaukee Bucks here, reigning defending champions. Giannis Antetokounmpo having another great season. Of course, this team's been really banged up. No Brook Lopez up to this point of the year at the time I'm recording this. And for Milwaukee, here they're going to be looking for a lengthy guard, someone like Bryce McGowan out of Nebraska, who has really good upside. If you're Milwaukee, I think near the back end of the first round, they should start taking some stabs at guys who have higher end potential, because they become great trade assets when they show flashes. They really open up your roster flexibility. And similar to how they developed Chris Middleton, I think Bryce McGowan has a lot of the same skill sets that Chris Middleton had coming out of college. He's 6'7" at the guard position, just like Middleton is. Of course, the physical characteristics are extremely similar when you look at their length, their thin frame. But Bryce McGowan also has shown ability to burst to the rim, handle the basketball, and he likes taking some tough shots. I don't think he's going to be an instant contributor in year one of his NBA career for Milwaukee, but he's someone where if you give him some time with the herd in the G League, take your time with him, be patient, he could develop by year 2 or 3 as a really, really nice bench scorer for this team, and that's exactly what they could use. Pick 23, the Cleveland Cavaliers now on the board. Cleveland, great season so far. They've withheld the Ricky Rubio injury up to this point. I was really nervous about that. Darius Garland's really picked up his play again. What a player, Darius Garland. He's having a great season. Evan Mobley's been fantastic for them. Jarrett Allen is making all the haters who said he wasn't worth $100 million eat their words. I love this Cavaliers team. The one thing that they need, though, is a little bit more wing play. And for me, that's forward Trevor Keels out of Duke. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if Cleveland does not have this pick on draft night. Very possible that they do trade this selection at the deadline to try and upgrade their roster and really get competitive in the Eastern Conference and try and win the first round of the playoffs and maybe even try and get to the conference finals. That's going to be a tough task to do when you're looking at Miami, Milwaukee. You've also got Chicago, and you've got Brooklyn, of course. It's going to be tough to get to the second round of the playoffs. It's going to be tough to get to the conference finals. It's a tough road in the East right now. But Trevor Keels is someone who, if they do have this pick, can come in. He's going to be a nice spot-up shooter. He keeps his hands ready when he doesn't have the ball. And he's going to be a nice complementary wing in a lot of ways. I see him coming off the bench for most of his career, but he's going to be able to guard with physicality. He's about 225 pounds. He's built. And I think Cleveland really just badly needs wing help, and Trevor Keels would provide that long term. For me now, Houston Rockets at 24. Of course, remember we got them Paolo Banchero in the top 3. And now at this part of the draft, they're going to be looking for some more size and athleticism. And to me, that's Mark Williams, center out of Duke. I think one of the key stories for Houston is they just had issues with front court depth over the last few years. To me, coming into this draft, grabbing Paolo Banchero and then later grabbing his teammate Mark Williams at Duke, those two have good chemistry together in transition. You get more athletic, and then you also just add a little bit more depth where you don't have to play bad centers 5 to 10 minutes a night. Mark Williams is going to be a solid pickup for them. Someone who I think a lot of people are higher on than I am. I think there is a real spot for him in the league, though, as a rim runner. I think the real upside for him is maybe a guy like Clint Capella, minus a little bit of rim protection, where he's going to be a nice lob finisher and rim runner. But I think at the end of the day, Houston just needs another center. You could potentially see them trading out of this pick as well if a team really likes a guy and wants to move up. But at this point, with them having picked 24, it makes all the sense in the world to me. Moving on to pick 25, Memphis Grizzlies. Here again, of course, we had him go with Hugo Bassan, 15th overall, the guard of the New Zealand Breakers. in the NBL. And now here I have him going with another high upside guy, forward Jeremy Sohan from Baylor. This Baylor Bear is really intriguing. I think he's going to be someone who starts to get a little bit more notoriety, and I think he's going to start climbing up boards when you consider he's a 6'8", 6'9" wing with really long arms. He's good on the defensive end, and if you coach this kid up a bit, he could be a really nice rotational player. Kyle Anderson, like I said, going to free agency. I think they could use another forward. Zaire Williams is really the guy they're watching, though, to take that leap, and now they get a guy on the bench to come in behind him in Jeremy Sohan. It makes all the sense in the world here. Memphis, they're set up so well. They've got 3 picks. They could make a big swing and trade for a big-time player if they wanted to, but I don't necessarily see a reason why they have to. They win with depth. They've got their big-time player already in John Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Desmond Bane are looking like really good 2s in the NBA as well. So you've got your guys if you're Memphis. Now you try and complement them with good bench pickups. And Jeremy Sohan, Hugo Bassan do that for me here in this first round so far. They do have one more pick coming. Miami Heat here, 26th overall. And for Miami, a team that has championship aspirations, they're going to still try and get better long-term, though. And a guy like Marjon Beauchamp for G League Ignite, he played a little bit of JUCO and is someone who has really, really shined with G League this year. He is not shooting the best from the field. That's kind of the staple for a lot of these G League Ignite kids, though, that come in. They don't have the best efficiency numbers. Their offense isn't super complex, though. They're running a lot of basic stuff, a lot of ISOs, just backdoor cuts, and try and win with athleticism. And Marjon Beauchamp is someone who fits what Miami needs, which is a little bit more athleticism. When you have Jimmy Butler, you have PJ Tucker, you have Kyle Lowry, I think you need a little bit more athleticism. Beauchamp's not the most athletic player in the class by any means, but he is a solid athlete. And I think there's a lot of value. He's going to be able to guard 2 through 4s in the NBA, I would guess. And I think he's someone who can fit well off the ball early in his career because he's currently doing that already for the G League Ignite. Next now, pick 27, the Chicago Bulls. Team that's shocked the world. They've been playing great basketball all year long. One of the best teams, one of the most exciting teams to watch. Of course, we do have some injury news on Lonzo Ball with his meniscus, which is a little bit concerning. I think it does make you wonder if the Bulls are going to make a trade at the deadline. Perhaps they do have a way to bring in more talent this year. But I'm going to go with Kofi Cockburn out of Illinois. This can be a fan favorite here for the Bulls fans. Last year, they took Ayo Dosunmu, 38th overall, and a lot of Bulls fans love that. They're going to do it again here, but 27th overall with Kofi Cockburn out of Illinois. He's huge, and I think if you're looking at what this Bulls team needs, is they need another guy who can function out of the low post offensively and can offer size and not versatility, but size and rim protection for them. And that's what he does. He's not necessarily going to get a ton of blocks, but he's an anchor down there. You don't want to try and go through his chest. This is a huge man on the basketball court, and the Bulls, depends on their evaluation of Tony Bradley. I know that Billy Donovan has had his fair share of looks at him throughout his NBA career. Maybe he's in love with Tony Bradley. They don't want to look at a potential 5 for them, but I think Cockburn here, 27th overall, does make a lot of sense. He's in state. He's playing really good basketball. He's one of the Wooden Award finalists at this point of the year, if I had to guess, and he's going to be a big part of an NBA team wherever he goes. Pick 28, Memphis Grizzlies, their 3rd and final pick in this first round mock draft. And here they're going to go with center Travion Williams out of Purdue. I'm really, really high on this guy. And when you look at what Memphis needs, I think Jonas Valanciunas replacement. They traded him. I understand why they got off certain money. It made sense. They moved up in the draft, got the guy they wanted in Zaire Williams. I understand it all. But if you come back here, grab Travion Williams, you get someone who has a really consistent right baby hook, likes to use his right hand on baby hook shots in the post. He's physical. He's going to be able to work on the glass. He's going to be one of the best players when it comes to boxing out in the NBA, just with his physicality. He's going to be content coming off the bench like he has for Purdue throughout his career. And then he's also someone who has phenomenal playmaking feel out of the low post, which is something I think could become extremely dangerous in Memphis when you consider what they have on that team. When you have Zaire Williams, you have John Morant cutting off of post-ups. Oh my goodness. And Travion Williams has the skill set to hit those guys on the move. Right now he's playing with Jaden Ivey, and those two connect all the time, it feels like, on backdoor cuts out of post-ups. And you put him with John Morant, who's arguably more athletic than Jaden Ivey. Oh my goodness. Watch out. Better spacing in the NBA. Travion Williams to Memphis. I actually really love this fit. I think this is one of the best fits throughout this whole first round. I don't necessarily know if I see him being a first round player, but I think he is well worth the pick. You're 28th overall. If you're Memphis, you've addressed a guard, you've addressed a forward, you get a center as well. Memphis is going to be incredibly deep if they use all three of these first round picks. Pick 29, the Golden State Warriors here now. This is one of my favorite pickups in this draft because I'm going to go with Trace Jackson Davis out of Indiana. He's a junior. He plays mostly a lot of small ball center for Indiana, but he's a great fit into Golden State. He's the perfect guy when you consider when Draymond Green's out of the game, he can run that little high pick and roll with Steph Curry. He can slip that. You can get him the ball in the middle. He's got solid playmaking feel. You can also post him up. He posts up hard when you want him to. He works on the glass. He's a weak side rim protector. This guy can jump out of the gym. He can also be a dunker spot setter when Draymond Green's in the game. He's going to have a lot of success in the NBA. I think he's someone who would fit perfectly well into Golden State, plays within their offensive scheme, and I think also defensively would become a nice weapon for them when it comes to protecting the rim, which is something Golden State does so well. Even without the best rim protectors in the NBA, you put him next to Draymond Green, you get better defensively, and you get a little bit more athletic, which I think is exactly what Golden State's looking for. And then our final pick of the first round here is the Oklahoma City Thunder, their third pick up to this point. So far, they've been able to grab Chet Holmgren. They were also able to grab Nikola Jovic. And now 30th overall. Before I announce this pick, make sure to leave a like, subscribe. If you guys are new, turn on the notification bell. And here is the selection. Forward Harrison Ingram out of Stanford. He's a guy to watch throughout the March Madness. I think he's someone who, if he starts playing well, starts putting some things together efficiency-wise, perhaps he climbs up boards. I don't think a lot of people right now see him as a first-round pick. I'm not exactly sure where a lot of people see him, but to me, I think he's someone who probably is best suited going early of the second round, but I see 30th overall. If Oklahoma City is looking for a little bit more size, a little bit more shot creation potential, that would be Harrison Ingram here out of Stanford. He could be a nice pickup for this OKC Thunder team, who's already had a great draft up to this point. Again, thank you all so much for watching. It is really appreciated. You guys are the best viewers in the entire world. Only 6% of our watch time comes from people who are subscribed, which means we would love, love, love for you to hit that subscribe button. And let's try and get that to 10%. That requires you to hit that subscribe button right now. Please go ahead and do that. Would really mean a lot to us. Again, thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.